Feels better from the phase amps, like it's better acceleration, and then it gets up to top speed a lot quicker. We're gonna tweak some parameters a little bit just to give this cheetah a little more give it a little more. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back. So today is the day. We're gonna upgrade the HAOQI CHEETAH to a different controller, different display, entirely different platform. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how I upgrade the HAOQI CHEETAH to a Gryntech Phaserunner controller. I know I said I would do a flip ski previously. I might still add a flip ski to this bike in the future. Make sure you like, leave a comment, and let me know. Say add a flip, use a flip ski. Leave a comment if you want me to do a flip ski one too. But for this one, we're going to do the Phaserunner because I have spare Phaserunners available, right? So they are a little bit more expensive, but it's got a lot of e-bike features, pedal assist, you know, stuff like that, wheel speed sensor. The Gryntech platform has a lot of e-bike features that are missing from Vesk. Okay, so the flip ski is a Vesk controller. So there's the flip ski, it's kind of good if you want to just throttle around. But if you want e-bike stuff, pedal assist, wheel speed sensor, stuff like that, Gryntech Phaserunner has some features that are useful. So what are we doing here? How do we upgrade this thing? So what I want to do here is, so the Cheetah comes with a 23 amp controller, right? So it's a 48 volt bike. If you multiply that by 23 amps, you get the peak power or the peak watts that the motor's going to be doing this with this controller. So 23 amps, that'll get you going 30 miles an hour. That's good enough to get you going 30 miles an hour on like a pre-built e-bike, right? The manufacturers, they're just going to put a controller on the bike that gets you up to the speed, you know, the e-bike speeds, and then that's it, right? But we can upgrade the controller, we can increase the phase amps for better acceleration off the line at lower speeds, and we can do a little bit more power, right? So this bike, this controller does maybe like 1100, 1200 watts peak. So if we upgrade the controller, we can do more like 1500 or like 2000 watts. That'll boost our acceleration during kind of like the mid range. So if we increase the phase amps, it's better acceleration on the low end, right? And then the more watts, the more power, that'll kind of boost up your mid-range as you're accelerating kind of during the mid-range of speed. And then if you want to increase your top speed, you've got to upgrade your battery to a higher voltage. I'm not going to do that. We're going to use the existing batteries that we have on here because we got the dual batteries, 25 amp hours. There's a lot of battery capacity on this bike. So what I'm going to do, we're going to upgrade the controller, increase the phase amps a little bit for more acceleration. We're going to increase the max power, the peak power, peak watts for a little bit, you know, more oomph while you're riding. And then it will be interesting to see because I think this controller is limited, like the speed is limited. That's a feature of the controller, is what imposes those speed limits. So as soon as we put this thing on a different controller, that speed limit no longer applies. And we're going to be able to see what this Cheetah is made of and how fast it can really go. So let's get started. So on the Cheetah, the controller is down here. It's inside of this kind of like fake mid-drive area on the frame. Right, so the first thing I did is there was like a crank bolt that you use to fasten the crank on here. I got that out with the 8mm hex wrench. So now I've got the crank puller on here, and I'm just gonna pull this crank off. I've already got it loosened up. Alright, so we're going to pull this crank off. Sometimes it makes sense to just like take the chain off first, and I can kind of rotate this backwards and get this over here. So let's get this chain off of here. So I've got this crank off, and so we're taking the crank off because that's what we need to do to get into access this controller box. So this thing, this piece, this metal piece, I think these are made by Re-Ention. So it's a Chinese company, and they make a lot of down tubes, and they make battery cases, and they also make this piece, like this big fake looking mid-drive piece that a lot of bike frames are using now. So this is Re-Ention stuff right here. So let's get in here. So this is what, 3mm to take all these guys off. So now in here we've got So this is the controller that comes, the 23 amp controller that comes with the Cheetah. And I did previously open this up and poke around in here, and I took this wire and extended it a little bit so I can plug in a backpack battery right here if I want to, so that's why this is hanging out. But so what we're going to do is we're going to pull this controller out of here. There's also a battery combiner in here, because this thing's got 2 batteries, and it uses a battery combiner to make them work together. So I'm going to get this out of here. It looks like I put some foam in here. The foam didn't come with the Cheetah. I put that in here because, man, it's in there good. I put the foam in here because I could kind of hear the controller rattling around when they just had it sitting in here without anything else in here. Like if you're hitting bumps and stuff, like I could hear it. So that's why I put this foam in here to make everything snug. Okay, so we got that out of there. Now we can get at the controller. So let's start. Okay, so I'm gonna pull out this battery combiner first. Get some of that slack coming out, and then... Okay, so let's look at what we have here. Alright, so there's a lot of wires and it's kind of a rat's nest in here, but let's break it down. Okay, so we've got this battery combiner, right? And so you can always look for like the red and black wires, your electrical wires, right? So we can see these right here. So this is a controller right here. So it's 23 amp controller. It says it cuts out at about 40.5 volts. Okay, so it's 48 volts controller, 23 plus or minus 1 amp, and then the low voltage cutoff is 40.5. Okay, so then we've got these wires. So what the battery combiner does is it takes the 2 batteries. So we've got the main battery right here. So these wires run up the frame up into this internal battery that you can see right here. Alright, so we got this big 16 amp hour internal battery. Those wires come down here and then they connect into the battery combiner. Then we've got our other battery, so it's this one, the second dual battery. It's got the wire that comes down here, plugs in right here, and it goes down through the C-tube, and then it's this right here. Alright, and so if we follow these wires, I've actually extended them. So this battery's wires, they come down through here, but then they actually go out right here. So I can disconnect that second battery right here if I want with this XT60 connector, and then I can plug a different battery in, like if I have it in a backpack or a rack or something. I can just disconnect this while I'm riding and then plug in, you know, run some battery wires like down through here where they're not gonna get all caught up, and then you can just plug that in here. So if I have like a third battery in a backpack or a rack, I can plug that in right here without having to open this up and get to the wires and access the wires in there. That's why I pulled this out. Okay, but so basically we've got this battery combiner, we've got these 2 batteries that connect to the battery combiner, and then there's this one connection that goes to the controller. Alright, so then this battery combiner allows us to use the 2 batteries with the 1 controller without hooking them up in parallel, which can be kind of dangerous and hazardous if you don't do it correctly. So the battery combiner is kind of a safe way that you can use 2 batteries with your e-bike without having to worry about parallel connections and stuff. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I am going to disconnect. Looks like I've zip tied these XT60s in here so that they don't come disconnected inadvertently. But I'm going to disconnect, like just cut that zip tie. And again, I put the zip ties on here when I was digging around in here last time. So we're going to disconnect the controller. Okay. So now I've got, let's get that battery combiner. Let's get that out of the way and look at this other stuff here. So let's disconnect the controller. So it's got this other thing right here. Little things that you press and then you can pull it apart. Alright, so there's some other stuff in here. There's like, I think this might be a light or something. It's just like a 2-pin JST. I think that might be for a light. I'll disconnect that. We're basically just disconnecting the controller from everything, right? Because we're taking this controller out of here, right? So then we've got, this is probably like the main wiring harness on these guys, or that could be like a throttle or something. But we're just gonna keep unplugging all these things. Oh, yeah, that was the main. So this is like the main display harness. It looks like it's got maybe 8 pins in there. And then this is probably the, what is this? Let's see, this is the pedal assist. Right here, we've got a pedal assist sensor right here. Pedal assist sensor has this little 3-pin yellow waterproof connector. So then what else do we have left here? We've just got, it looks like the motor cable that's run out. The motor cables run out through this hole along this chainstay back to the motor. And it's kind of like zip tied back here on a chainstay. So I'm going to disconnect the motor cable. See it back there? Right here? So it's zip tied. I'm going to have to cut these zip ties off that are securing it. Make sure you don't cut the cable, because that is a problem. Okay, so we cut that zip tie off. So that loosens this up a little bit. And now, let's see here. It's also zip tied right here, so I'm going to cut it carefully right here as well. So this is our motor cable that goes between the motor and the controller. So I'm going to disconnect it right here, down at the motor, where it connects to the motor. So we're going to have to pull that pretty forcefully. Oh man, to get that unloosed. So here's the controller side of this motor cable. So let's use that thing. Alright, so I think we can just start fishing this thing through here. That gonna fit? Oh. A little bit hard. I might have to cut some of these zip ties and then run these wires back through here before I can fit the motor cable back through. Let's see. Alright, so here, so here comes the motor cable. Alright, and then so now we've got this controller out of here. Right, so the stock controller has been removed. We can set this aside. I mean, these things probably worth like, I don't know. I mean, the manufacturers, they probably pay like $25 for one of these or something. So these things, it's good to keep it around just in case you need it, but they're not very good, right? So I'm just gonna put this in the parts bin, really. So it's possible to use those with another e-bike sometimes, but so let's keep going here. So now we want to hook our Phaserunner up, and so I think I am gonna put the Phaserunner. Let's see. So first, it's always a smart idea. All right. So the first challenge that we have is, so this controller has a thing that looks like this, right? And so this is what the motor has. Is this? So the motor has this connector, right? But our controller has an L10 connector, right? So this other one, this is called a Z916 connector, and this is called an L1019 connector. Okay, so what we're going to have to do in order to hook this Z916 male connector to something else that isn't the Z916 female connector, right? So we want to hook it to this, the L10. So we got to get one of these. Right, so this is an adapter cable, and it's a female Z916 on one side, and then on the other side, it's got the male L10 connector, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to plug this into the motor right here with that Z916. So I'm going to bring it back to where it needs to be over here. Alright guys, so I just pulled this connector up through this internal routing. Right, so it looks like it's got a shifter, a hydraulic brake hose, and then it had this thing, right, that was running all the way down, internally routed all the way down there. And so I've pulled that up, and then we're just gonna, so there's like some wire wrap. We're gonna have to unwrap this wire wrap. And so this harness, it probably comes up here and it's got like a bunch of things coming out of it for like the brake cutoffs and the throttle and the display and all of that stuff plugs in on the end of this thing. So let's see here, can we get this? Alright, so what is this? So this is a brake cutoff. So we're going to disconnect the brake cutoffs. So it's these red ones that have 2 pins in there. And then it looks like we're just going to have to completely take this wrap off of here. Okay, so we got a whole bunch of... Okay, so this is our throttle right here. Here's the brake cutoff. Okay, so now we've got... It's just the display that's still connected in here. So I'm going to disconnect the display. Alright, so here's our wiring harness for the Cheetah. So it's got 8 pins. We've got the... What is that? A 5-pin green connector for the display, 3-pin for the brake. The 3-pin is for the throttle, and then these red ones, these 2-pin red connectors are for the brake cutoffs. So I'm just going to connect this harness back in here so it's connected to that controller if we ever need it again, and set that aside. Alright, so I'm going to take this display off the bars now, and that includes this thing over here. Thankfully we can take those off the bars without having to take anything else off the bars. Okay guys, so there's a couple different ways you can mount the Cycle Analyst on the bars, and for this one I'm going to take my Cycle Analyst that has this thing on it. That kind of, it mounts right on the top of your stem, like where this top cap bolt goes for your stem. So we're going to get this on here. Alright, so we got this on here. So standard procedure, when you're tightening this top cap, I usually lift up, like I lift underneath this, like the crown of the fork, and I lift up on that whole front wheel and bring all of the pressure up off of that front wheel, and then I start tightening this top cap until it seems like it's pretty snug. And then when you do that, you can hit the front brake and feel like right here where feel right here, make sure there's no, like, hold the front brake and then rock the bike back and forth and feel right here and make sure that this doesn't feel like anything's loose right here. So that feels pretty good. Make sure that the wheel is still straight when you're aiming the bars straight. Alright, so we've hooked on the Cycle Analyst to the bike, but now we gotta hook all this stuff up to the Cycle Analyst, and we have to connect the Cycle Analyst to the Phaserunner controller down there. So I also need to get a throttle on here. So here's our little button that we're gonna use. So this button, let's see, we're gonna have it over here. Okay, so now we gotta try and internally route this back through the frame, and it's actually a little bit bigger. This connector is a little bit bigger than the one that went through there originally, so I don't know how easy this is gonna be. I'm crossing my fingers we can just fit it through here. This thing's kind of rubber, so it seems like we can just push it. Oh, alright, so we're pushing. Oh. Okay guys, so what I had to do is there's like this little plastic grommet thing, and so I had to, whoa. I had to take that out a little bit, and then I'm just gonna have to like force this thing through here, like that, and then try and run this down in here, along with everything else. Let's see if we can just push that down in there, and keep pushing. Okay, nice. We're pushing a rope down there. Pushing a rope doesn't always work, but in this case... Alright guys, so this is why I don't have internal routing on any of my bikes. It's because it's taking me like forever just to get this one thing ran through here. So I have like this, what is this, a wire snake or something? I don't know. But we're going to hook this on there and then try and run it through there with this thing. Alright guys, so I've got my wire snake routed through here. So now, finally, we can come up here. And then we're going to hook this Okay, so these are the ridiculous lengths that I'm going through to get this wire through here. Because the keys that came with the bike, I can't seem to get this battery out. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, this battery, just like, I can't seem to get it to come out. I don't know. So let's see if we can fish this through here. Gotta get it started. Alright, so finally, we got this thing through here. Alright, so we've got this Cycle Analyst waterproof connector through down here, so we can connect that into the Cycle Analyst. So we'll just plug that in to where the pedal assist should go, and then we'll just kind of, I guess we'll just find out if it works or not. Okay, so that plugs in there without any changes to the connector. So then what else? I think that's... we just gotta hook in the battery and then find a spot for this thing inside of here. Alright, so unfortunately, it seems like these wires on my Phaserunner for the pedal assist, one of them is just like broke right here. Unfortunately. So I mean, it's nice when controllers are potted, but the thing about controllers being potted is if a wire breaks like that, it's like what are you even supposed to do? So unfortunately, this Phaserunner, like, that is a pain in the ass because I want to do pedal assist. So it's almost like I need to go get a different Phaserunner now because I want to do pedal assist. That's really annoying. Alright guys, so we've got everything connected to the controller. We've got the motor cable connected. So there's a Z916 to the L1019 adapter. So the motor goes through that, connects to the Phaserunner through that L10 connector. Then we've got the Cycle Analyst up here. The Cycle Analyst has this little switch we can use to turn on, so there it is. That's the MF switch. Right? So we got the Cycle Analyst up here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go into the settings on the Cycle Analyst by holding down that left button. And then so I'm going to change this a little bit. Okay, so I think this is a Hentac motor. I'm not exactly sure, but the Bafang ones usually have 6 speedometer pulls, so we're just going to start out with that. So let's go to the battery. We're going to go to the battery and we're going to change it to 13S for 48 volts. And then the capacity out of both of these batteries is 25. So I'm going to say 25 on my dual battery setup. Then the voltage cutoff, I'm going to make it 40.5 is what the previous controller was. That's how it was configured previously. So I'm going to use that for the low voltage cutoff. Okay, so now that the voltage is set up, I'm going to back out. You can see, so it says 55 volts, and now that the battery gauge is showing full, right? Because we changed the cells in series from 20 series, which is 72 volt. We changed that down to 13 series, which is 48 volt. So now the display is reading that voltage and it knows our battery's full. Okay, so now we're going to do the motor detection in the Phaserunner Suite. Alright, so when you're using the Phaserunner on a Cycle Analyst, you gotta use a computer. And there's like, it's like a little headphone jack is what it looks like. I'm not gonna unplug it right now, but that's like a headphone jack. Everybody knows a DC like headphone jack looks like. It's a weird connector for a data line. I don't know. Grin does some weird stuff. Alright, so then if we come over here into the Phaserunner Suite, let's increase my screen brightness. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just load a similar motor, like load default parameters. So we're gonna do Bafang, maybe like a G60, and then and for the controller I'm gonna pick V6 Phaserunner L10 with CA3 because that's what I've got. So apply. Okay, so I'm gonna save parameters to the controller. So it says connecting. Please just work. Communicating success. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is the auto tune. Okay, so we're gonna click right here, so auto tune. So here's the first step in the auto tune wizard. This is a motor winding static test. So it tests the motor to determine its resistance and inductance. It's normal to make a buzzing sound. So I think this motor has the same number of magnets as a Bafang G60. I don't know. We're gonna have to find out. So let's launch the static test. That sounds familiar. Alright, so that's what we got. It says RS is 52, then LS is 126. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next step. So now we gotta make sure that this wheel can spin freely without anything getting in the way. So I gotta make sure my motor cable is tied up to the chainstay. I gotta make sure that this chain is out of the way. So I'm gonna do that quick. Okay guys, so what I did is I just took the whole chain off. I broke the chain off, got the chain off of here, and so it says please lift the wheel off the ground and ensure there are no wires or objects in its way. If the drive direction is inverted, the pedals might also spin backwards. Okay, so I took the chain off because if the wheel does start spinning backwards, the chain's going to be going backwards, and then the cranks are also, like, the cranks would also be going backwards. But so I took the chain off, right, because I have the crank off, and then so if this started going backwards, it would have been bad, right? So just be careful when you do this, so that everything's all the way. And this damn Phaserunner cable, these things break when the wind blows, and then you got to pay Justin another $25 for one. So, and like $15 of shipping. So it's like a, you know, it's, so we're gonna do the motor test. It's on the, so I got the chain off. I'm just gonna prop this thing up on the kickstand so that this rear wheel is off the ground, like this. Okay, get a good hold of it. There we go. This wheel's off the ground. Nothing's in the way. The derailleur is kind of touching the cassette, so if that thing starts going backwards, there might be a slight problem. But so let's hit next on this, and it's going to start spinning the motor, hopefully. Okay, next, and then I have to click launch motor spinning test. I'm going to extend this derailleur. There we go. Look at that. Listen to how smooth that is. Remember on the stock Cheetah, it kind of had like this. So this is a FOC controller, field-oriented control, and it's a lot quieter. So it's not a square wave. Okay, so now we have the results. We have the results of this baby. Alright, so here is the Auto Tune Wizard spinning motor test results. So it says the KV is 7.29. It says Hall sensors okay. Using motor position sensor type Hall sensor start and sensorless run. Hall offset 0.374 degrees, and it says Bafang standard Hall detected. There's the Hall pattern. And then we're going to hit next, finish, and then save parameters. Okay? Alright, so at this point, our motor is configured. in the Phaserunner Suite, right? So at this point, we can start tweaking with the parameters, changing the parameters in the Phaserunner Suite, kind of playing around a little bit, see what this baby can do. All right, so I gotta go get a new GoPro battery, and then we're gonna do just that. Okay guys, so as I'm hitting the motor, the cassette is spinning with the wheel, and then it's actually like, since there's no chain on here that's kind of pulling the derailleur down, the derailleur is actually touching the cassette and kind of getting in the way here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hook this thing onto something else. Alright guys, so we're gonna tweak some parameters a little bit just to give this cheetah a little more oomph. Give it a little more. Alright, so let's go to the motor limits. So max power limit. So this thing, I think it's probably a 750 watt motor is what it says on it. And then it had a 23 amp controller. So, I mean, I don't know. We're gonna do like 2000. Now, 1500 is probably a safer bet. Like if you're just gonna give it full throttle continuous, 1500 is probably a safer bet. But if you have some discipline, you should be able to give it 2000 watts for just a brief period of time without breaking anything, right? So then under max phase current, it's currently at 50. I'm gonna set that to so it kind of translates the newton meters of torque into that phase current. So let's see. You can always go on the manufacturer's website and see like what did they tell you for the newton meters of torque. And so right now with 50 amps of phase current, it's telling me that that's 65.5 newton meters of torque. I'm gonna go look at the Cheetah website and see what they say. Alright guys, so I'm just looking at the HAOQI website at the Cheetah. So it says 4th anniversary sale, lowest price guaranteed. So the Cheetah is currently $12.99. Huh. Alright, so what we're concerned about, so there's a promotion going. So let's see, so 750 watt geared hub motor. So where does it say the newton meters? Let's see what they say about this. Does it say anywhere? Oh, it says up to 90 newton meters of torque without deformation. Alright. So HAOQI, they're telling us we can do 90. Okay guys, so we're coming in max phase current. It's currently at 62 amps, so that's 81 newton meters. Let's keep bumping it. Alright, so if I bring the phase current up to 69, that gives us 90.4 newton meters of torque. So I'm going to save that. Alright. So I got 69 amps of phase current, 90.4 newton meters. Alright. So then for the max battery current, so if we recall back, we've got two batteries, and it was a 23 amp controller. That old one. Right here, right? So this was 23 amps. And this has got a dual battery setup. So it should be able to run, like the bike should be able to run with just one battery. So I think that this battery alone should be able to do at least 23 amps. I'm not sure about this one. This one might not be able to. I'm not sure if this dual battery can run the bike on its own. It's a good question. But, so this can do at least 23. This one's got to be able to do at least, you know, I would hope it can do. I mean, it's got to be at least 3 parallel, the cells in there. So I would assume, you know, so if this one can do 23 and it's 16 amp hours and this one's 9 amp hours, then I would say this one should be able to do at least like 10 amps, right? So I'd say like 33 amps, 35 amps or something, maybe, is like what we should give the max battery current as. 35 amps. So let's see, what's 35? 35 times 48. So that's 1680. Huh. We can always limit. So with the Cycle Analyst, you can actually limit the power up at the Cycle Analyst and control that and change that setting a lot easier. If you want to change the current on the Phaserunner, you got to do that with the computer. So what I'm going to do here is like, so for 2000 watts max power limit, let's divide 2000. Oh, 2000 divided by 48 is 41 amps. So what about like 2000 divided by 41? So that's 48 amps. So I do think I'm gonna set the max battery current on the Phaserunner to 50 amps, and then we can play around with the limit on the Cycle Analyst and limit it there further if the batteries can't handle 50 amps. So we're gonna leave this to 50, but I don't want to do a regen, so I'm just gonna set the regen to like 0, and then the max regen phase current I'm gonna lower as well and save that because I don't want any regen happening. So then I'm gonna change it to 28-inch wheel diameter because these are 26-inch fat tires, but it's closer to 28 inches. So they're so fat. So we're gonna save that, 28 inches. And then so I'm not gonna change the maximum speed. It says 99 kilometers an hour. I'm just gonna leave that because I swear there's a bug, and if you change the speed in the Phaserunner Suite, like it just bugs it out. So just don't even touch it. And so for the wheel speed sensor pulses, I'm gonna make that 6 because that's what I believe it is. That's something I haven't double checked yet, was to make sure that the wheel speed was right. So let's go up and see how that wheel speed looks. So we can see this, we can see that on the Phaserunner up here. So let's come into the Phaserunner and we'll limit the battery power up here. Power limits. So I'm gonna set the max current on the Cycle Analyst. Well, why don't we just start out 35 seems alright. Alright, and then so let's limit the max power to like, just for starters, let's limit it to 1500 watts, like baby steps, right? Because originally it was on 1100 watts peak. I'm gonna set it to 1500 here. So really this limit right here, the max power limit, that's probably gonna be what's limiting us. So I'll set this max current up to 50. I'm gonna go back here, change that. And then so max power is 1500 watts. That's gonna be what's limiting us. And then so 50 amps, but 1500 watts limit. So then I'm not using any pedal assist right now because the wires on this Phaserunner are up. So it says the temp sensor, there's no temp sensor in this one, so I'm just gonna, oops. I'm gonna turn the temp sensor off just so that it's not showing up on the Cycle Analyst. I'm gonna say temp sensor disabled. Okay. Alright, so there we are. So let's see, is the speed working? The speed signal working? Let's see here. I hit the throttle. Oh, interesting. It seems like it might not have a 6-pole speedo. Might just be one. Let's see here. So I'm changing that to 1 poles. And it seems like my derailleur was still on the way back here. Alright, so I've strategically bungeed my derailleur back to this battery. And we're just gonna, like, pull that thing way back there so that this is clearing here when this is spinning. Alright, so now let's get the rear wheel off the ground again. Hit the throttle and let's look at the speedo. Weird. Alright, so I'm back in the Phaserunner Suite, and I'm gonna change my wheel speed sensor pulses per revolution back to 0 and hit save. Oh, that's kind of weird. Something funny is going on with the speed signal, so let's try it again. Huh, weird. We're getting kind of a weird speed signal. Whoops. That is funny, man. That's some funny business. How does that work? Huh. Interesting. Okay guys, so we gotta figure out how many magnets are in this motor for the wheel speed sensor. It seems like it's more than 6. So if you come into the Phaserunner Suite and you click on this dashboard tab, and then you see the digital signals right here. So you see wheel speed sensor. So it's going to be kind of hard to show you that it's blinking, but when you move the wheel, this wheel speed sensor thing lights up every time that a magnet passes it. So what we got to do here is I'm going to align this valve stem right here at the chainstay, and then we're going to, so there's kind of a magnet pulse that's right here by the chainstay. So I'm going to start here on that magnet pulse, so that's 1. So then I'm going to rotate it, and we're going to count how many times does that thing pulse as we're going. Yeah, it seems like Cycle Analyst is reading our battery. It's reading the power. Alright, so when I hit the throttle, you can see it's reading the power. It says we're going 50 miles an hour. I don't know if that's right. But I don't know. I'm just gonna get this all put back together and get this thing, get the cranks back on, get the chain back on here, and I just want to go see what happens and try this out, and we'll see how far off the speedo is. So let's go see what happens. Alright, so I'm gonna pull out the programming cable because I think it's been programmed. I don't think we need to mess with it anymore. And then we're gonna get this stuff tucked in here. So, alright guys, so I've come out here and I don't know, I mean, on the speedo, and I don't know, I mean, I'm not sure if the speedo's gonna work. See, now it says we're going 0 miles an hour. I don't know. Also feels feels like my front wheel is, I just gotta forget about the speedo for now. I got a burrito to go pick up, guys. So I don't know, let's change it to 2,000 watts. This seems a little bit tame. I feel like the Cheetah can handle more. Let's go into the settings. Alright, so we're gonna set the power limits to 2,000 watts? I mean, 1,500 didn't feel, that felt like nothing, boys. That felt like nothing. Like the Cheetah, it can do a little more than that. Oh, there we go. There we go. 2,000. Nice. Let's get this into a gear, boys, and pedal it a little bit. I'll get out my phone so we can see how fast we're going. We'll have to see what we get going down this hill. But I think, so I was giving it full throttle, and when I give it up to a certain speed, it seems like it kind of tops out, and then it's not using 2,000 watts anymore. So I think what that means is the motor has just kind of like reached its, like that's just kind of like the limitations of the motor windings. I'll check the tops. We'll go down this hill. We'll see how fast we get going. So in terms of this bike, it seems like we'll be able to, it feels better from the phase amps, like it's better acceleration. and then it gets up to top speed a lot quicker. We'll see the top speed in a second here. There's pretty heavy headwind too. I feel like a parachute. See, it feels a lot faster, like right there. Like when I'm accelerating and then getting up to top speed, it's like a whole different ball game now. We got a burrito to eat, boys. So well, we better bring you guys back up here. I hope the screen is clean. Is the screen all gooped up? Oh man, we might have a dirty screen. My front tire doesn't sound good. Hopefully the screen is not dirty. Oh yeah, so we gotta check how fast did we get going there on the speedo. It does seem like the motor windings kind of top out at 30. So we might be able to do, I don't know if it makes sense to do field weakening at all. You can maybe do a little bit of field weakening. Possibly put it on a higher voltage. That could be an option, right? Because the motor winding is kind of like a slower, torquier motor winding. So we might have to go higher voltage or something. But we're definitely accelerating, like it's saying 2,000 watts right now, getting up to speed. But then once you get up to speed, that's all it can do because of the motor windings. So we can try to make it a little faster with field weakening. We can maybe give it a little bit more phase amps and for better low end acceleration. I mean, really, we could probably, I probably want to leave it like 2,000 watts max on the power limit. Don't want to do a whole bunch more than that. Doesn't really hurt to do 2,000 for just a few seconds as you're getting up to speed, really. I definitely gotta reseat that front tire. Seems a little bit off after I put the flat out in. I haven't tested that yet. I feel like we can keep up with traffic a lot better now.
like how the Cycle Analyst kind of like is nice and tucked down right here. I like how that turned out. Are we still going here, GoPro? All right. So I think if we got the Cheetah on 52 volts, it would probably, it'd maybe go a couple miles an hour faster, 1 or 2 maybe. Be interesting to see. Like I could try it with little baby Samsung. We could try it with little baby Samsung. 52 volts, except it's Samsung 40T3 cells. So that would probably give us a little speed booster. Sun's going down. I might have to change my GoPro settings. A little bit sketchy riding on this road. So I don't have the lights hooked up anymore. So that's one thing about when you change your controller on your e-bike. The controller is what all of the lights and like your brake cutoffs and your throttle and your display and all of that stuff. When you change your controller, depending on what the controller has, some of the connectors and the wires might not match up, so you might have to like change your throttle or change your display or whatever when you get a new controller. It's kind of a smart way to have an e-bike configured, is to just have the motor windings configured in such a way around 48 volts it can get going 30 miles an hour. It's a smart way to do it. I mean, HAOQI, they had the e-bike set up in a very efficient way, because if you look at this, as we're cruising here, it only takes about 1100 or like about 1000 watts to maintain that max speed. And that's what they had, was a 23 amp controller that did about 1100, 1200 watts. This is a Wisconsin bike route. It's getting kind of dark. Hopefully I'm going to be able to color correct this. So kind of an interesting first ride on the Cheetah. This, to me, the strength in the Cheetah kind of lies in the dual batteries. That dual battery setup, 25 amp hours, a lot of battery capacity. You can go a long way on the Cheetah. See right there, we're only using about 23 or 24 amps. So we've gone through 4.2 amp hours, so that's a nice thing about the Cycle Analyst is it shows you the voltage, the watts, exactly how many amp hours you use. There's the current, the amps. It can show you, it should be able to show you the speed. I just got to get that sorted out. This is the first ride. So what I might try next is add a little bit of field weakening, maybe just like a little bit. I feel like since the motor windings max out there, like we could do just a little bit of field weakening and boost the speed a little bit. And it wouldn't be a big deal. Maybe use a little bit more battery, but it's a good thing we put that flat out in the tires. Jeez, boys. Very interesting with that speed sensor. That's crazy to me. So is it one? What the heck? This is crazy, boys. Is this right now? Weird. I think that is right. I guess it's just one pole. What was going on? That was crazy. That was wild. So it seems like the speed signal behaves differently, like until you get moving or something. That's really weird. But that seems closer to accurate. 26 miles an hour. I wonder if I pedal. Come on, baby. Come on. Man, it feels like I need to reseat the front tire. But I'm glad that we kind of got the speed sorted out. That was weird.
Alright guys, so what was confusing me is when the motor is going, but the wheel hasn't started spinning fast enough, and there's no wheel speed signals happening. The Phaserunner just looks at the pulse and the RPM of the motor, and it starts using that as the wheel speed signal until there's actually a wheel speed signal happening. Okay, so that is why I was getting confused about what was going on with this wheel speed signal. There's only one pole, and it's just kind of laggy until you get going.
Alright guys, well, we sorted out the speedometer. It's one speedo pole, and it's like the speedo doesn't actually give you a signal until it starts going. It seems like you gotta get going like 5 miles an hour, like 10 miles an hour. I don't know. Let's try that again. Kind of curious. So I stop here, it says 0. So now it's still saying 0. So it didn't start showing anything until it went up to like 6 miles an hour. Huh. Well, I guess the wheel probably has to spin a few times before it can get a speed signal. If there's only one magnet inside of it, I guess that kind of makes sense why the reading is so slow. We're figuring it out, boys. We're using our brain. Let's hope we don't get ran over here. It's been a long day, boys, but we figured it out. We got the Speedo working, one magnet pole. We got the Cycle Analyst going on the Phaserunner. We're cruising around on the HAOQI Cheetah. Dual battery, full suspension. That was fun. Like, subscribe, follow along as I improve the Cheetah further. Later, boys. Thanks for watching. Peace out.